और मैं मिक्स करके हिंदी इंग्लिश दोनों में बात कर सकता हूँ। द की थिंग इज दैट आइडिया मस्ट कनेक्ट विथ यू, चाहे लैंग्वेज कुछ भी हो। बिफोर आई कम टू गिविंग डायरेक्ट आंसर टू व्हाट अनिरुद्ध जी आस्क्ड, आई वांट टू सेट सम कॉन्टेक्स्ट एंड देयरफॉर आई थॉट इट्स बेटर टू स्टैंड। नंबर वन इज दिस ड्रीम ऑफ विकसित भारत, जो अब हम बात करना शुरू कर दिए हैं। The first of all, I think you, me, panel, everyone here would agree, and we must congratulate the Honorable Prime Minister for giving this vision. एक goal, एक aspiration लेके तो चलना ही है, and specifically that we know कितना तेजी से fast geopolitical changes हो रहे हैं। आज के टाइम में इससे ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट कोई काम ही नहीं हो सकता है। एंड इनफैक्ट आई कीप सेइंग कि सब काम छोड़ के सिर्फ इसी एक गोल पे फोकस करना चाहिए कि कैसे बाय 2047 जब तक इंडिया का 100 ईयर ऑफ इंडिपेंडेंस होगा उस समय तक हो जाए। लेकिन आइडिया में तो सुनने में तो कौन ना बोलेगा। द प्रॉब्लम इज कि यहाँ तक पहुंचे कैसे। और अगर सिंपलेस्ट टर्म्स में डिफाइन करें कि विकसित भारत मतलब क्या, तो एक इंपॉर्टेंट चीज तो होती है इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ। आज के टाइम में हमारा पर कैपिटा जीडीपी, पर कैपिटा इनकम रफली 2,000 से 2,500 यूएस डॉलर्स है, विच इज रफली 2 से 2.5 लाख पर कैपिटा इनकम है। अगर हम डेवलप्ड इकोनॉमीज की बात करें जहां पे मिनिमम 20,000 यूएस डॉलर से लेके 1 लाख यूएस डॉलर तक का पर कैपिटा इनकम है, तो विच मीन्स सिंपली मीन्स कि अभी तक अगर हम देखें कि 47 से जर्नी करके हम 2,500 पे पहुंचे हैं, और अब हम सोच रहे हैं कि अगले 20 सालों में हम इसका कितना 2.5 10 गुना कर दें, राइट। मिनिमम लेवल पे भी पहुंचने के लिए अगर 20,000 यूएस डॉलर पे भी करना चाहते हैं तो ये 10 गुना कर दें। प्रश्न ये है पॉसिबल है? मैं बोलूंगा कि थोड़ा चैलेंजिंग जरूर है, लेकिन इम्पॉसिबल नहीं है। क्यों नहीं है? अगर सिंपलेस्ट मैथमेटिकल कैलकुलेशन लगाएं तो अगर हम अपना जीडीपी ग्रोथ रेट जो कि अभी 6-7 के में चल रहा है, अगर इसको हम डबल डिजिट में पहुंचा दें तो 10-11 मिनिमम रखें तो पहुंचा जा सकता है। उसके लिए करना क्या होगा? मान लीजिए 2,500 यूएस डॉलर है, तो अगले 5 सालों में अगर हम इसको डबल कर रहे हैं 5,000, उसके अगले में डबल हो गया 5 से सीधे 10,000, और उसके बाद डबल हो गया तो 20,000। मैं बड़ा रफ कैलकुलेशन दे रहा हूं, तो पॉसिबल है, थ्योरेटिकली पॉसिबल है। अब इसमें यह सोचना होगा कि अगर विकसित भारत है तो उसका वो कैसा दिखना चाहिए। पैसे तो होंगे, और इस संदर्भ में 2-3 इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स हैं। पहला, डेमोग्राफिक चेंजेस जो हो रहे हैं। आज के टाइम में हमने शायद चाइना को भी पछाड़ के सबसे ज्यादा जनसंख्या वाला देश तो बन गए हैं, बट इट्स नॉट गोइंग टू एवर लास्ट। वी नो बाय 2040 ऑनवर्ड्स हमारा भी जनसंख्या पहले रुकेगा और फिर नीचे गिरने लगेगा। व्हाट डज इट मीन? अभी ऑलरेडी जो हमारा मीडियन वर्किंग एज का पॉपुलेशन था 25, अभी वो 30-35 पे टच करने जा रहा है, which means that by 2047 onwards we will have a lesser working age population and more people who would require support, an elderly population। तो elderly population ज्यादा होने वाला है, working population कम। तो once again I want to connect the dots। 6-7% जीडीपी हो रहा है, जबकि हमारा लार्जेस्ट वर्किंग पॉपुलेशन है। जब ये श्रिंक करने लगेगा और टारगेट आप बढ़ा रहे हो, कैसे पॉसिबल होगा? अगर करना है तो ये होगा कि इफ वी कैन कन्वर्ट आवर चिल्ड्रन who are going to be future kind of a market labor force into high capacity human capital। अगर कर सकते हैं तो ही होगा, और वो कर सकते हैं ये सोचने का भी बहुत ज्यादा समय नहीं है। क्यों? क्योंकि 2040 में 45 में जो मार्केट में वर्कफोर्स आएगा वो आज ग्रेड 1 में बैठा हुआ है। तो जो करना है बहुत तेजी से करना है, आज करना है, क्योंकि अभी लेके जाएंगे तब तो वो विकसित भारत का ड्रीम की तरफ हम आगे बढ़ पाएंगे, या अदरवाइज हमें शुरू से मान लेना चाहिए कि ये भी जुमला है, नहीं हो सकता। ठीक है, अब दिस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में अगर हाई कैपेसिटी ह्यूमन कैपिटल बनाना है, और हमें मालूम है नास का रिपोर्ट, असर का रिपोर्ट आता है कि 60% ऑफ ग्रेड 6 स्टूडेंट्स कैन नॉट डू बेसिक्स ऑफ लैंग्वेज एंड न्यूमरेसी ऑफ ग्रेड 2, तो ऐसे तो फिर वो पॉसिबल ही नहीं है। एंड देयरफॉर आई एम सेइंग इसके लिए उन सारे पॉलिसी पैरामीटर से वो सारे प्रोविजंस जो अभी तक हमारे एजुकेशन पॉलिसी गवर्नेंस फ्रेमवर्क को डोमिनेट किए हैं, उससे काम नहीं चलेगा। These are solutions of 19th century which we are trying to apply in 21st century. तो हमें आज के प्रॉब्लम के हिसाब से जिस तेजी से जाना चाहते हैं उस हिसाब से सोल्यूशन निकालना पड़ेगा। And in that context we think, if I think about it, there are a couple of things need to be done. वन, अगर एजुकेशन को पूरा समझे कि क्यों हमारे देश में एजुकेशन की व्यवस्था उतनी अच्छी नहीं है, बहुत सिंपलेस्ट टर्म में दो तरीके से समझ सकते हैं, सप्लाई एंड डिमांड। सप्लाई ऑफ गुड स्कूल्स देखिए, कई कुछ स्कूल हैं जहाँ पे रात रात भर लाइन लगती है एडमिशन फॉर्म के लिए, और ऐसे भी स्कूल हैं जहाँ पे एडमिशन मार्केटिंग भी कर रहे हैं तो भी नहीं आ रहा है, एंड आई मीन ऑल्सो इंक्लूडिंग गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स हियर। तो अच्छे स्कूल्स उतने नहीं हैं, क्यों नहीं है? बिकॉज देयर इज अ वेरी हाई कॉस्ट टू एंट्री, जो बैरियर है वो बहुत बड़ा है, और इसकी वजह से कुछ ही लोग हो सकते हैं, एंड देयर आर मेनी फेमिलियर फेसेस हियर इन ऑडियंस, जो कि डे टू डे पे वो उस लाइफ को जी रहे हैं, तो उस पर मुझे बहुत ज़्यादा बोलने की जरूरत नहीं है, इंक्लूडिंग अनिरुद्ध गुप्ता जी, कि कितना मुश्किल हो जाता है एक अच्छा स्कूल बनाना, सेटअप करना, और उसमें भी है जबकि नॉट फॉर प्रॉफिट रख रखा है। अगर आपके टर्म्स एंड कंडीशन ऐसे आपने बना रखे हैं जिसमें कि एक अच्छा स्कूल सेटअप करने के लिए मिनिमम 50 करोड़ का इन्वेस्टमेंट चाहिए, एंड देन एक्सपेक्टिंग पर्सन टू गिव दिस एजुकेशन बाय चार्जिंग 500 और 1000 रुपीज मंथली फी, सेंस ही नहीं बनता है, राइट? तो दैट्स द सप्लाई साइड ऑफ प्रॉब्लम कि अच्छे स्कूल उतने क्यों नहीं है। देन देयर इज अ डिमांड साइड ऑफ द प्रॉब्लम कि ठीक है, बहुत अच्छा ऐसा बना भी दिया, क्या लोगों के पास परचेजिंग पावर है उसको पे करने के लिए? नहीं, तो फिर ऐसे भी वो अनवायबल है। एंड देयरफॉर इफ आई पुट ऑल ऑफ दीज थिंग्स टुगेदर इन दिस कॉन्टेक्स्ट, एंड देन आई हैव टू रिप्लाई टू अनिरुद्ध जी's क्वेश्चन कि भाई फॉर प्रॉफिट होना चाहिए नहीं होना चाहिए, I have debated with length and breadth and I don't know why it cannot be done today. हो सकता है एक तो ये जो गाइडिंग इसके पीछे का थॉट है, कहीं जगह पे लिख दिया गया है कि इट इज चैरिटेबल, इट शुड बी चैरिटेबल इन नेचर, पर किसी बेसिस पे लिखा है, कोई एविडेंस कुछ ऐसा नहीं है, और जिस टाइम पे बना लिखा गया ठीक बात है, आज के टाइम पे आई डोंट थिंक योर कस्टमर और कंज्यूमर, आपका पेरेंट्स जो आता है, डिफरेंशिएट्स के इसलिए आता है क्योंकि आप ट्रस्ट हैं या सोसाइटी हैं या फॉर प्रॉफिट कंपनी है। उन्हें मतलब ये है कि अगर मैं 100 रुपए पे कर रहा हूँ, मेरे को क्या रिटर्न मिल रहा है। सो इफ द वैल्यू इज कमिंग टुडे, पेरेंट फॉर देम इट डजंट मीन एनीथिंग एंड दे आर हैप्पी टू पे। सिमिलरली फ्रॉम द सप्लाई साइड ऑफ दिस, अगर उनको इफ दे आर एबल टू रेज सम गुड रेवेन्यू, देन ओनली दे वुड इन्वेस्ट एंड री इन्वेस्ट। Now once again connecting with विकसित भारत ड्रीम, जो मैंने बोला कि फास्ट करना होगा, you will have to come to these kind of solutions जिससे तेजी से पैसा है। जैसे ही अगर इसको हम फॉर प्रॉफिट सेगमेंट कर देते हैं, there will be huge investment coming, it will revitalize the economy because multiple kinds of services would require. Just by employing teachers, the number of competent teachers required in this segment, and therefore it could just one key intervention can revitalize the entire economy and ensure that we achieve this idea, the dream of Viksit Bharat or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Amit. That was quite comprehensive. So I like my colleagues on dais to be little brief because we'll have to wrap it up in next half an hour. So here I'd like to bring Vimalji again. Like we've been talking about society's trust in Section 8 companies. Also we deliberate that whether the government should think or start thinking institutions to exist for profit also. But as a matter of fact, most of the schools, practically, I mean, it might vary from institution to institution, but as per the constitution and as per the laws of the land, they have to exist not for profit. And most of them, they have taken exemption also, maybe under 1023C or 12A. And so recently there have been a lot of amendments that have been made to the scheme of exemption under section 11 of the IT Act. So I will like, for the benefit of our audience and the people sitting in this house, if you like to throw some light on what have been the recent changes in the section 11.
So basically, the scheme of exemption under section 11 and 1023C, these are the two parallel set of provisions. In fact, 1023C again has two sets. One is for those institutions whose gross receipts are less than 5 crores per annum, and another set of institutions whose gross receipts are more than 5 crores per annum. So for 1023C institutions below 5 crores, they don't need any registration and they can continue to claim exemptions. They have a limited regulatory regime for them. But institutions which were to claim exemption under 1023C and having receipts exceeding 5 crores, for them there is a sunset clause which has been introduced, because over a period of time the scheme of exemption under section 11 and scheme of exemption under 1023C subclause 6, which applies to 5 crore plus revenue organizations, is more or less same. So there was hardly any benefit or advantage in continuing them in parallel. So 1023C6, the sunset has already been invoked. So all these organizations will automatically get into section 11. And for section 11, if we are to see, there have been radical changes. Earlier, the registration under section 12AB was granted in perpetuity. Then there was a provision which was introduced that it can be withdrawn if the institution is found to be not complying with the provisions of the law. And now there is a requirement that every 5 years you have to get your registrations renewed. And if the registration is not renewed, then there is a provision for imposition of an exit tax, which is very draconian in the sense that whatever are the market value of the assets which have been accumulated over a period of time by the organization, minus its liabilities, whatever is the balance, will be taxed at the maximum marginal rate of tax, which would be with all surcharges and all exceed even 40%. So it has to be ensured that all the compliances are made in time, all the registrations which are due for renewal, the applications are filed completely with all the information, and no deadlines are missed. So that's basically, I think, important.
Thank you, Vipinji. That was very important, and my word to all the fellow colleagues, it's very important for all of us to understand these aspects, and rather than the government or the departments regulating us, let's try to self-regulate ourselves. So here I like to ask Kamalji again. Kamalji, I'd like you to throw some light on the recent law introduced by the act by the Delhi government also. And also I'd like you to talk about the school fund management or the preparation of accounts to be submitted to the regulatory authority. How best do we handle that?
So the Delhi government has brought about a law which is yet to be implemented.
Talk about some of the landmark judgments which we have won for the.
So the new act by the Delhi government is yet to be enforced and implemented, but we are in the process of challenging it. And the new act made by the Delhi Legislative Assembly is directly contrary to the parliamentary legislation which is there in force in Delhi already, which is the Delhi School Education Act and Rules. So the 1973 parliamentary legislation is actually one which does not over-regulate and respects the autonomy of the schools, and based whereon various judgments of the Supreme Court have been laid down, like TMA PI is in consonance with the Delhi School Education Act. In fact, the judgment in modern school is entirely based on upholding the Delhi School Education Act provisions. So the new act is actually a knee-jerk reaction to some political compulsions owing to some parental agitations in Delhi. So the problem, if I could just a little digress here, I was hearing the fellow panelists on RTE and the EWS issues. In Delhi, there is an over-implementation, or some would say that complete implementation of all laws, not so much in the other parts of India. So in that we find that the fees are being restricted and the admissions of EWS have to be made to the fullest capacity. So I have a school client, for example, whose fees revenue in the year 2016 was 20 crores. And despite having increased its fees every year by 10%, in 2025 its fee revenue continues to be 20 crores only. So that has been made possible by the government by taking away the 25% of the seats which and give it to the EWS, from which the schools get nothing in Delhi. So therefore this over-regulation and this implementation of the RTE Act has led to the squeezing in and the drying up of the funding of the schools, and which would actually be detrimental and counterproductive to the students and parents themselves. Now the parent in Delhi is actually not only paying for the education of his own child, but is also funding the education indirectly of the EWS child. So it's a double whammy for the parent in Delhi, and the government is taking all the bouquets for it. The question which Mr. Gupta has asked me with regard to the accounts, how to maintain them, etc. So the simple formula is that whatever you collect, you keep it under a different head. You may collect development fees, you may collect tuition fees, you may collect activity fees, transport fees, etc. And you have to keep them headwise under different accounts and utilize them for the purposes that they were received for. So the only thing which the law looks at is that you should not have diverted one fund to the other, like you should not be buying buses from the tuition fee, or you should not be spending the development fee over salaries. So this is how we could maintain our funds so as to prevent any kind of scrutiny or penal order. So we've had very recently, there are provisions, as I said, and every state has these acts, education acts, wherein there are some compliances to be made. Like you need to have some accounts, you need to have separate accounts for depreciation, development fund, etc., etc. So the division bench has actually said, gone to the extent of saying now that the Directorate of Education, it can regulate the school fee, no doubt about it, but it can regulate only and only to prevent commercialization and profiteering and nothing else. So therefore, to an extent, to a large extent, taking away the sheen from the regulatory compliances that we are supposed to make under the various acts, and to restrict it to saying that if the money which is surplus with the school, which is generated, but is being plowed back and is not being siphoned off, till that time the government can't interfere in the school fees.
Thank you very much. That was quite informative. So, Kulbhushan ji, here I like to bring, because every school in India has to be affiliated to an examining board. It might be any board for that matter. And given the original mandate of these educational boards, is it time to reevaluate their relevance and performance in a globalized educational landscape? And how do you compare them with international boards in fostering examination, assessments, critical thinking, employability, industrial employment, and innovation?
बहुत सही अनिरुद्ध जी, आपने कहा कि बोर्ड जो है परीक्षा शिक्षा का आईना है, कि आपने क्या पढ़ाया उसका मूल्यांकन बोर्ड ने करना होता है। और बोर्ड के मूल्यांकन के बाद बच्चे एम्प्लॉयबल होते हैं या उनको एक डायरेक्शन मिलती है और उन्हें किस डायरेक्शन पे जाना होता है, यानी परीक्षा का उसमें एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रोल होता है। दशकों से आप देख रहे हैं कि बोर्ड्स की बातें आ रही हैं कि बोर्ड्स बड़ा अच्छा परफॉर्म कर रहा है। अब वो कॉम्पिटेंसी बेस्ड की बात भी कर रहा है। अब ये कह रहे हैं कि पहले हम रोड लर्निंग पे जा रहे थे, अब हमें कॉम्पिटेंसी बेस्ड एजुकेशन पे जाना है। बोर्ड्स की बिल्डिंग्स जो हैं जगह जगह पर खुलती जा रही है, बोर्ड्स फैलता जा रहा है, स्कूल भी फैलते जा रहे हैं, स्कूलों की भी कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। अब उसकी रेलेवेंस है कि नहीं, आप ये बताइए कि अगर परीक्षा सही हो रही है, बोर्ड सही है, उसका रेलेवेंस सही है, तो फिर कोचिंग की जरूरत कहां पड़ी, पहले ये बताइए। ये कोचिंग कहां दशकों से पनपनी शुरू हुई। पीसा की आप रिपोर्ट देखें कि पीसा की रिपोर्ट क्या कह रही है, वो अपने आप एक आईना दिखा रही है कि बोर्ड जो है, मेरा वक्तव्य आप देख रहे होंगे कि मैं थोड़े वक्तव्य वैसे दे रहा हूं, मैं सच्चाई बोल रहा हूं, जो स्कूल संचालक समझ रहे होंगे कि स्कूल भी बढ़ रहे हैं, बोर्ड के ऑफिसेस भी बढ़ रहे हैं। और बोर्ड जब भी कॉन्फ्रेंसेस करता है अपना, जब रोड लर्निंग थी तब रोड लर्निंग को बड़ी अच्छे तरीके से जो है कॉन्फ्रेंसेस में बता दिया जाता था कि आज एजुकेशन सिस्टम बहुत अच्छा चल रहा है, हमारा एग्जामिनेशन सिस्टम बहुत अच्छा है, हम टीचर्स को ट्रेनिंग कर रहे हैं। पीसा से रिपोर्ट कुछ आ रही है, असर कुछ रिपोर्ट दे रहा है, और बच्चे जो है कोचिंग की तरफ क्लाइम कर रहे हैं। और एग्जामिनेशन के बाद अनिरुद्ध जी, अगर कॉलेज में एडमिशन लेना है तो सीयूटी का एग्जाम, मेडिकल में एग्जामिनेशन लेना है तो नीट का एग्जाम। 2020 तक तो सीबीएसई ही उसके एग्जाम जो है कंडक्ट करता था, जेईई मेन के लिए उसके एग्जाम। तो फिर ये बोर्ड के एग्जाम्स की रेलेवेंस क्या है? मुझे लगता है बोर्ड के एग्जाम की जरूरत ही नहीं है। अगर आपको कॉलेज में जाने के लिए एग्जाम देना है, आपको इंजीनियरिंग में जाने के लिए एग्जाम देना है, आपको जो है मेडिकल में जाने के लिए एग्जाम देना है, तो फिर बोर्ड के एग्जाम की क्या जरूरत है? इतना बड़ा जो एक स्ट्रक्चर खड़ा किया गया, बार बार 25 घंटे की ट्रेनिंग, 50 घंटे की ट्रेनिंग, हमने जो है शिक्षा में ये सुधार कर दिया, हमने शिक्षा में वो सुधार कर दिया। ग्राउंड में नजर कहां पर आ रहा है दशकों से? यानी बोर्ड अपनी रेलेवेंस खो रहा है। एग्जाम इस प्रकार का सेट होना चाहिए कि बच्चे को कोचिंग की जरूरत ही ना पड़े, इस तरह का एग्जामिनेशन सिस्टम होना चाहिए। और दूसरी तरफ कहा जाता है कि बोर्ड जो है ऑटोनोमस बॉडी है, सारे बोर्ड को, स्टेट बोर्ड हो, सीबीएसई बोर्ड हो। अब अगर हम पिछले दशकों को ये कहते हैं कि पिछले दशकों में हम गलत कर रहे थे, तो हम लोगों ने तो याद दिलाया था कि ये गलत हो रहा है। अगर आप ऑटोनोमस थे तो आपने किसकी बात मानी? हमारी तो आपने मानी नहीं। फिर किसकी बात मानी? अगर आपके पास स्वायत्तता थी तो आपको बात माननी चाहिए। और आज भी अगर आपके पास स्वायत्तता है तो मैं आप सब एजुकेटर को कहता हूं, बोर्ड को बताइए कि अब भी आपका एग्जामिनेशन सिस्टम ऐसा होना चाहिए कि बच्चों को, पेरेंट्स को कोचिंग की जरूरत ना पड़े। अभी कमल जी ने एक बहुत अच्छी बात बताई कि अगर आरटी का कंप्लायंस 25% का सही नहीं होता तो वो जो स्कूल पे एक्स्ट्रा बर्डन पड़ता है कमल जी, वो भी पेरेंट्स पे पड़ता है। यानी 3 टाइम जो आप लोग पेरेंट्स हैं, पहले तो गवर्नमेंट से आपको हक चाहिए था, आपका जो एजुकेशन का हक है। अगर आप गवर्नमेंट स्कूल में बच्चा डालते तो 8-10 हजार गवर्नमेंट आप पे खर्च करती, गवर्नमेंट ने आपको पैसा नहीं दिया। फिर आपने प्राइवेट स्कूल को पैसा दिया, जब प्राइवेट स्कूल को भी पैसा दिया तो आरटी की जब प्रॉपर पेमेंट स्कूल्स को नहीं की गई तो जो पेरेंट्स वहां पर पे कर रहे हैं वो बर्डन भी उन पे आ रहा है। इधर से बोर्ड का रेलेवेंस खत्म, उधर से एजुकेशन पॉलिसी का रेलेवेंस खत्म, उधर से एनईपी और आरटी कंट्राडिक्टरी। एनईपी आउटकम बेस्ड एजुकेशन की बात कर रही है, आरटी जो है इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बेस्ड एजुकेशन की बात कर रही है। और बोर्ड जो ऑटोनोमस है, जिसने हमारी परीक्षा ले ली है, परीक्षा तो ऐसी होनी चाहिए जैसे अर्जुन की परीक्षा हुई थी कि नीचे से देकर मछली की आंख को भेजना है, उसके लिए कोई कोचिंग की जरूरत नहीं थी। तो जब बोर्ड अपनी रेलेवेंस खो रहे हैं, इस पे तुरंत जो है सचेत होने की जरूरत है। हमारे पॉलिसी मेकर्स को सचेत होने की जरूरत है, हमारे एजुकेटर्स को सचेत होने की जरूरत है, बोर्ड को लिखने की जरूरत है कि आप ऑटोनोमस बॉडी है, अपनी ताकत को पहचानिए। आप इस तरह की शिक्षा प्रणाली बनाइए, ना सीयूटी की जरूरत हो, ना कोचिंग की जरूरत हो। अगर इनकी जरूरत है तो बोर्ड एग्जामिनेशन को खत्म कर दीजिए। क्यों आप हमारे पर ड्यूल इंस्पेक्शन करते हैं और क्यों इतने इतने फाइन लगाकर एजुकेशन को महंगा कर रहे हैं, ये मेरी राय है।
May I just add to this? So, as school owners and the delegates, you could actually look at taking a delegation to the central government, where we are losing the worth of schools with these kind of CUET examinations. Everybody now is questioning what is the worth of school education and where is the competition. Why should we compete at all, where we have to compete in the final later examination? So we may end up losing our worth completely and nobody would be taking us seriously in that sense. We may lose the impetus and the encouragement to set up good quality schools, because the parents would start thinking that we need not have those schools if we just need to prepare for the examinations later.
Thank you, Kulbhushan ji and Kamal ji, and for your information, me, Kulbhushan ji, 4-5 hours, we had recently met Secretary Higher Education, Mr. Vineet Joshi, and one of the recommendations which we strongly put across to ensure the relevance of grade 12 board exams. Earlier, for admissions to these medical, engineering and competitive exams, there was a relevance of board exams. But now, perhaps over the years, I mean, whether you score 80, 90, 70, 60, doesn't matter. You have to crack the competitive exams, due to which, I mean, the coaching industry is thriving. So, Amit, we were just talking about the challenges, and there are almost 55 boards in India. How much? 64 education boards in India, and probably one or two more are going to be added. So, Amit, we were talking about the Sharma ji highlight about the broad challenges, and all our fellow panelists. So, will you have some kind of recommendation in mind to solve these issues which are confronting and rather impediment in the growth of K-12 segment?
Thank you very much, and once again, very interesting question, Anirudh ji. मैंने अगर बड़े तौर पे एनालिसिस करें तो बहुत sure. If you do a broad meta-analysis, you can certainly identify multiple challenges, but my format was the most simplest way, supply and demand, right? And also to keep my answer very brief, I said at the supply side, there are regulatory barriers, which works as an obstacle, either financial obstacle or regulatory obstacles, or managing the documents and setting up the school and all of that. What could be easiest way to solve it? Which all of these problems, they occur and reoccur and continue occurring because there is a fundamental problem in the architecture of school governance, which I say the Department of School Education. For an example, Ravi Keshavani ji is sitting here in the audience. In Uttar Pradesh, Department of School Education operates its own school, right? In fact, they have the largest number of schools in the state. At the same time, also regulate private schools. So if you plan to first thing, even just you ideate, think of setting up of a school, the first thing you need to do is create a society or trust, as mentioned. Then go to the DM and who would actually give you what is called essentiality certificate. Just to set up, first you have to prove why you want to set up a school, right? And the DEO being a competitor, why would he allow, right? And therefore there is a fundamental conflict of interest. I think the great thing I find is the National Education Policy of 2020 has finally identified this as a problem and therefore lays out whether there is a drafting of is a problem, implementation is problem, or multiple new notification and GOs that comes to private school to kind of install security measures or do XYZ. None of those are actually implemented in their own department schools, right? Of function. These are very specialized roles which should be done by a very specialized body. So NEP under chapter 8, point number 8.5 says the Department of School Education should only create policy and operate their own school. A new body needs to be set up called State School Standard Authority, which will be the regulator, independent and neutral regulator to regulate all schools on the same standard parameter, right? And I think if that can be implemented in the spirit as the idea is, that could be a game changer. And therefore, the new kind of regulatory architecture that I would recommend for SSSA is simply be focused on learning outcomes. Just move away from input. So put the target and let schools innovate how do they want to achieve that target. So that has the potential to solve the supply level problem, which will attract huge investment and things could start moving fast. Second, still the problem continues is low demand. One is the low demand, and second is their asymmetry of information. Actually, parents don't really know that with my 100 rupees spent or 1000 rupees spent, where am I finding the additional quality, right? You can compare your mobile phones, etc., but not really the education quality under certain parameter. So that is the constraint at the demand side. How can we revitalize this? Currently, for an example, Kamal Gupta ji talked about Delhi school education. The per child cost to educate a kid in Delhi school is roughly 83,000 rupees per year, which is roughly 6,000-7,000 rupees per month, right? The key idea here is the state must provide education to all the kids, not in his or her or their own school. So simply, why not to give this money directly to parents to send their kid to whatever school they want, and that can bring very fast competition in market. All of the schools will have to compete and therefore fast improve. It will generate demand and huge demand, and there is actually already huge investment, financial, the money is being spent, it is not being spent in the right way. So these could be two ways to channelize the right demand and supply. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Amit. I think they were quite relevant, and hope, the government promulgates some kind of a legislation and listen to all these suggestions. So we have a lot of questions here with us. So one by one, I like to ask, and I like my fellow panelists to be very, very brief on that. So first is that what kind of fee can be collected from RTE students, and what action as a management we can take against fee defaulters. I think this is one of the pain points for all the schools. There are a lot of fee defaulters, and there are a lot of restraints and constraints to handle these fee defaulters. And I also realized that some of the parents, like what we saw in Three Idiots, they get their child educated in a particular school, and at the end of the year simply shift the child to another school. So I like Kamalji. So what action can we take against such fee defaulters who are not defaulting on the fee due to certain concern or certain economic aspect, but they are willful defaulters?
There are various provisions in various different acts, but generally, by and large speaking, whosoever is a defaulter in payment of fee, you could give them a 1 month or 2 month window. Just wait for them to comply, but thereafter issue them a show cause notice that why should your name be not struck off from the rolls of the school for non-payment of fees. Give them 3-4 days or maximum 7 days time to reply, and say in the show cause notice itself that in case no reply is received, it would be presumed that you have nothing to say and your name would stand automatically struck off from the roles without any further reference to you. So thereafter, if they respond saying that your fees is not approved, etc., whatever is the legal point, thereafter the principal of the school will have to pass an order saying that all your defenses are erroneous, untenable, and your name therefore stands struck off. My suggestion to this is, the practical suggestion to this is that start early. Don't wait for the year to end or somebody to comply. Like Mr. Gupta said that some people leave and change schools. So you would have been left with no means to recover thereafter the fees. So you would lose out on fees. So start early. Immediately after a month or two, issue the show cause notice and start the process. And it always has a deterrent effect on the others also.
Thank you very much. So Vimalji, so can a trustee who's working full time as an executive director draw salary on and par with the principal instead from an educational consultancy company and charge service fee instead of the salary?
So basically this is related to payment to related parties. So this is payment is proposed to be made to a trustee. So the underlying philosophy remains the same. Till the time there is a need, actually services have been rendered, and the price which has been paid is the arm's length price. This is possible. So it's not that you have to have somebody on roads only, you can have a consulting also. But then the necessity for that consultancy, the deliverables, there should be a proper agreement, and it should not be a device just to divert the funds. So if somebody is rendering a consultancy, normally a consultant will not have just one person or one institution as a client. So the consultant can establish that yes, he's rendering consultancy on an order in the regular course of his operations, then nothing prevents them from charging a fee from a school where he's a trustee.
Just adding to what Mr. Kishore has said, the trustees, if they are well qualified and if they are rendering a service like my friend said, and there's nothing wrong with charging a fee for that. And also just to a bit of a difference, even if the trustee is devoting himself to one particular school only, which he has founded also, then also it is possible the courts or the regulator can't question that payment because he is rendering service and he has devoted himself to that. Otherwise, the school would have had to employ somebody else who would not render that kind of service with the heart.
It is very pertinent what he said. So, linked to this only, Vimalji, so somebody has asked, can a Section 8 or a trust have board of directors? Section 8 certainly need to have board of directors. And in which section, I mean, a board of directors can draw salary. Can they, I mean, is a question mark. So, I'd like you to, if you could answer that.
So basically all artificial these entities created by law, since they are creation of law, they will work only through a human agency. So there has to be a supervisory board, not just in case of Section 8 companies. It should be encouraged even in case of societies to have an executive board where decisions are taken. Even in case of a public charitable trust, there should be a board. And the board of trustees, as I said again, if there is a necessity and if it can be established that yes, actually the services were rendered, the person who rendered the service had the necessary qualification to render, and the organization benefited from that. And the price which was paid was actually the arm's length price. As Advocate Gupta very rightly said, that the organization would have ended up paying this amount.
Government or not, they're bringing them under RTI, and the registrar of society can now work as an auditor. He can ask for documents, and in case of any dispute, the government can appoint any grade 2 officer as an administrator of that society. So this is one. And secondly, another question is, are the private schools answerable for RTI application, asking for personal document of staff, audit reports, etc.?
So RTI generally is not applicable to private institutions. Some schools may have received lands from the government, let's say for free or at a concessional rate. There is a distinction in opinion, there is a dichotomy, there is a difference of opinion between courts and courts which say that this would amount to substantial financing of the school or this would not amount to substantial financing. However, as I understand it, RTI does not permit intrusion into the private sphere, private information disclosure of a private institution. This would be violative of Article 21. The institutions do not take any aid from the government, so therefore they are not financed by the government, which is one of the foremost requirements to bring an institution under the RTI. And we could challenge any such provision which is issued with some less application of mind by arbitrarily making the private institutions amenable to RTI, which the RTI Act itself does not cover.
But if schools start taking private reimbursement, then RTI is applicable.
So that is not aid. That does not amount to aid. So if you have rendered service and you are forced to render service, you can't turn around and say that you have taken aid from me.
So the question is, when you accept the remuneration against RTE, against those 25% quota students studying in your schools, so does it tantamount to receiving grant from the government, and are you covered under the RTI in that case? So this is they were asking. So though there are a lot of questions, and I think it was quite an informative and interesting panel today. So one last question I'll take, and after this, if anybody has anything in mind or wants to ask something, we are here around, everybody's here. It's not easy to catch hold of my fellow panelists otherwise. So you can ask your questions and whatever you have in your mind. So one last thing, Vimalji, which I like to ask, somebody has sent this question, that the trust has a PAN number, and it runs schools affiliated to CBSE and other institutes, probably wanting to say that they're running multiple institutes, and the IT return is filled only on the PAN of the trust. So is it better to have one single return, or can each institute have its own PAN and file a separate return?
So PAN is basically the identity of the entity, the legal entity which is controlling the institutions. All the institutions are part of the umbrella entity, so the correct way is to have a common PAN, and all the institutions are, because the balance sheet of the institution is formed by merging the operations of all the schools which are under that particular umbrella. So it's not, in fact it would be wrong to obtain separate PAN, because other institutions, they have no independent identity of their own. So PAN would be one for the society, and that's how it will happen.
Thank you. Professor Harish is here, and morning we were talking about the marriage and taking it to a selection of the right people in leadership. And I would like to say here is that as a school promoter and entrepreneur, we are not wedded to one, but lot of regulators, and we have a lot of pain points. It's not easy to set up and run schools here in this part of the world. So on a concluding note, firstly I'd like to thank all my fellow panelists, Amitji, Kulbhushanji, Kamalji, and Vimalji. I'm sure that you have a lot of takeaways from this session, and it's very important for all of us to understand the laws of the land, whether it is related to income tax, whether it is related to any affiliated board, or it might be related to, we have even the new labor code which has been enforced recently. It's very important for all of us to understand the new labor code also, and also like the GST, and whether it's a society, trust, or a Section 8 company. and the RTE aspects, the RTI aspects. Generally we are so passionate, and I like to congratulate all of you for being the nation builders, for being the torch bearers, and I can understand the amount of effort all of you as school promoters, as head of institutions, you have been putting in unflinching effort day in and day out to run institutions in these kind of not regulated but over-regulated ecosystem. So it's very important for us to understand. I mean, the fact that we are governed, we have to operate in a specific framework, and notwithstanding whatever our personal take or how we feel or how it should be, the fact of the matter is that all these aspects what we discussed today have to be followed, and I'm sure that this discussion here today will help you in understanding all these regulatory aspects, financial aspects, and legal aspects. So while we are putting in a lot of emphasis on improving the quality of education, and rightly so, and provisioning of various facilities, resources, it's very important for us, even if in terms of student safety, even in terms of the various norms and acts by the local municipalities, by the local state governments, which I said might differ from state to state. So a better understanding, and in this sector I'll say ignorance cannot be a bliss. So I hope we were able to clear few of the doubts, and in case there is anything else, the panelists will be more than happy to take your questions. So again, thank you very much, and thank you Himanshu for this panel, and again thank you so much Dr. Chaudhary. Thank you very much.
I could remind you that for founders we have kept an evening dinner as well at Panchil Club, which will start at around 6:45, and some of them would be there with us there as well. So there we can deliberate it over. If you have some specific questions, you will get some time as well. Come again, sir? Yeah, we can discuss it in a spirited manner. So thank you everyone. By far this is one of the most eclectic panel which we have been able to create, because we have always focused on school leaders. This is what we are attempting. We have created a school founders club where we can start answering these questions. Unlike what goes into teacher training and all the related stuff, these question answers are mostly black and white, which can be answered straight away. So with this, I'll bring this to a formal conclusion. Anirudh sir, if you can give a memento to all of them. We'll start with Vimal Kishore sir. Advocate Kamal Gupta. Dr. Kulbhushan Sharma. Dr. Wilson. Please, Dr. And if we can have a group photograph of the entire panel. Thank you. I think this photograph encapsulates the core of our School Founders Club. I think this is a group which would be able to answer most of your questions. I would very carefully look at all the questions which you have written on the slip. If not now, we will keep answering them in our emails and other discussions. So with this, we will come to the next session, which will be taken by Harish sir. Before that, if you have your lucky draw coupon stand, there is a box, you can put it there. We will open it tomorrow, first session. Yeah, let's do it after the session. You are anyway not going out between now and end of this session. So Harish sir, now it's over to you.
It's getting slightly cold and chilly outside, so I want you to stay here. And Himanshu said that one of the reasons why he's putting you at this time is so that you go straight from here to the club, where again the temperature should be brought down. There was a research, not on the school system, but in general, on the failure rates of businesses in India by Professor B.G. Patel, who was then Director of Entrepreneurship Development Institute, Ahmedabad. And he identified 4 factors in that order. 1, lack of all-round expertise of the entrepreneur. So, if I look at the school system, one big issue is we want the founder, chairman, secretary of the trust or manager to be or to have a background in teaching. As Snehal also said, if you look at the RAN group itself, the first school they started in 1978, and Mrs. Grace Pinto was a teacher. And that is why she insisted that Snehal, before she takes on the mantle, goes through that experience of teaching. Now, you might be a world-class teacher, but you may not be a good finance manager. You may not be a good businessman, per se, or a businesswoman. You may not be extremely good in operations or logistics. And one thing which comes very rare to most startups, businesses, is marketing. It seems very simple. As a matter of fact, it's so simple that it slips through your hands. It's so easy, they just kind of miss it out. The second factor he found was accounting practices. And what he found is that when we start a business, if I may call a school a business, technically we don't, but in practice, yes, we tend to mix up our personal accounts with school accounts, institutional accounts. And when you need more money, you approach a bank or an investor or somebody, they want to see your accounts, your P&L statement, your cash flow, your balance sheet, and you may not have maintained it in that manner. The third was lack of understanding of legal and statutory compliances. Now, with all the, if I may say, the gyan that this panel gave us, you can either be a school leader or you can be a lawyer. You can't be both. It's difficult. So my single advice is, you should have a good legal advisor. A good legal advisor. And the fourth was very interesting. The fourth reason was optimism. To be in business, you need to be an optimist. And the first law of finance, of accounting, first principle of accounting is be conservative. An optimist overestimates income and underestimates expenses. A finance person overestimates expenses, underestimates income. Now, I don't have the data, but you people will have the data. Default rate. What are the number of parents who don't pay up the fee in time? And we often don't factor that into our accounting system. So, that given, I am yet to come across a school
who has a marketing manager. You all have accountants. And I find it very difficult to share examples without names, but then being in this group and with the threat of social media, I have to hide the names. There's exactly one school I know who attempted to have two principals. They got a consulting agency to do an audit. It's a small boutique school, and what it said is that you need two principals, one for academics, other for operations. It didn't work. They got a principal who was focused on academics, curriculum assessments, teachers, teacher development, etc., etc. And they got another one whom they called director operations. But what they found is, all parents want to meet the principal, not the director operations. I have a very brief stint because I very quickly found out that I'm very poor in logistics and administration. 2 decades back, I joined as director of a business school, subsequently vice chancellor of this institution. And I had taken leave from IIT. But exactly 3 months later, I went up to my secretary of the society. I said, increase my salary. He said, kitna sir? I said, do it 4 times. जो भी मुझे दे रहा हो उसको 4 गुना दो. Said, क्यों? I said, देखो, I had come here for academics. I thought I will recruit, train, mentor, teachers, look after classroom, but I'm the chief security officer. I'm the chief finance officer. I'm the canteen in charge. I'm the protocol officer. I'm your PRO. यार इतने सारे काम करवा रहे हो. And one fine day, it was a small institution that time. It's grown into a large university now. The girl I had appointed as girls hostel warden came to me at 4 o'clock and said, "Sir, कल भिंडी की सब्जी बनवाई थी, आज लौकी बनवा दें?" I said, "प्रीति, तुम्हारे जो 800 रुपए हम per month दे रहे हैं for being a warden is made zero. I will get it now." And that's the day I said, "Yeah, I'm not competent for this." So hats off to you people that you manage all these complexities. The topic that Himanshu gave me is school as a brand. What is a brand? What is a brand? Mahesh, what is a brand? Kota Academy brand.
Actually, brand means you can have a very good impact on the society about your education or any product.
Identity, wonderful. Any other comments on what's a brand? Trust. There can be a good brand, there can be a bad brand also. Yeah? There are some brands you will not touch.
Recognizable.
Okay? Recognition.
Recommend you about something, that means it is a brand.
Right. Normally when we talk of brand, we say positive, strong brand. So IIT is a brand. What does IIT stand for? We actually asked the parents, बच्चे को यहाँ क्यों भेज रहे हो? They said 2 things. अमेरिका में न चला जाएगा, नौकरी मिल जाएगी और शादी हो जाएगी. 2 things. बीच में क्या होगा is irrelevant. You have to wait for 4 years. What is brand equity? We often talk of brand equity. I believe Akash sold off to Byju's and collected the money. I will not give that figure. I know that figure because Akash is supposed to be here. Why did they pay that? Okay, let me take known instances, published cases. This was slightly not published as well. It was what came in the media was not accurate. Thumbs Up sold off the brand to Coca-Cola for 400 crores. They did not give them any plant, machinery, bottles, कुछ नहीं दिया, केवल brand name दिया. Why?
Market value.
Market value. How do you assess market value? How was that figure arrived at?
They have to build the number of years.
Apple phone?
market value. How do you assess market value? What should this phone be costing? Any idea? Take a wise guess. 1 lakh. If I do not tell you that has got an Apple behind it, then what would it cost? If I tell you it's the Chaudhary likha hua hai. Right? इसमें गंगाराम लिखा है तो So we say brand equity is the premium that the customer is willing to pay for that brand name or brand affiliation. Right? So maybe for an unbranded phone, you might be willing to pay a smartphone with features इतने हैं सब हैं. So maybe you pay 10,000, 20,000. पर इसमें हमने Apple लगा दिया, तो इसमें 1 लाख रुपया और जुड़ गया. और एप्पल हर साल जो इसमें एक नंबर चेंज कर देता है 15 से 16, i16, i17, i18, i19. I have no idea what's the difference between an i5 and an i15. But then the price shoots up. Why do we pay for that brand? Now that's the brand value. And brand equity we calculate is the total differential of the brand value, summation over the sales over the next period of years. It's a slightly complex formula. I'm trying to compress a 42-hour course called brand management, which I take in my department, into 45 minutes. So I'm going to go a little fast, but we can have questions later in the evening or whatever it will be. So one test of brand strength, as Sir said, brand means something which pulls, is can it take a price increase? So we say IIT is a brand because we charge about, I think, 30,000 rupees per semester for the undergraduate students. But if we start charging 10 times more, our number of applications will not reduce. At the same time, we will not do it. We are categorical about it because when the IIT was established, the IIT Act stated, and was stated in the Parliament when the bill was passed, to provide quality education irrespective of socio-economic status. If we increase the fee significantly, then maybe we will change the socio-economic profile of the students, which was not our mandate. So what I'm suggesting is, at the end of the day, we want to have a reasonable cash flow because you got to pay your teachers, because you got to pay for services, because you got to pay for IT infrastructure, and we should not be compromising on it. We want some money for innovations. We want to expand. We want to give better quality, and quality costs money. See, if you have invested your own money, and presumably most of you have, at some point of time you want to recover it. Depending on how deep your pockets are. And you cannot run an activity at a loss forever. You can run it for some time. So we need to have sales. Fees to leni padi. Unless of course you are Purukul Youth Development Society, a beautiful school in Dehradun. I don't mind taking that name because I have permission to take it, where the admission criteria is that parental income should be less than 1 lakh per year. It's a 100% free school, all provided, and they give money to the students for higher education when they pass out from there. Now they're able to raise their funds from a variety of sources. I'll be happy to share some of those sources with you, but off the mic. You can be a charitable institution. You You can have businesses running and money flowing in and running that school. I did my education from the Room School, and in 2004, the fee used to be annual fee expected around 4 lakhs per year, and they increased it to 14, from 4 to 14. For a very long time, we held back to it, and we resisted it. And I can say it quite openly because my group, my batch, agrees with it. We wanted the fee to be held low and said we will collect money from the alumni. Because it's an alumni-owned school. The school does not have an owner. It's run by the Alumni Association. But by and large, now another big issue is pricing. How do you fix the price of a product in our system, the fees of a school? Our accounts people, our finance people will tell us, budget banaiye, see what is your capacity, see what is your break-even point, and add some profit margin to it and put the fees. Marketing logic says no, I will not do it. The marketing logic suggests find out from the customer what is it they are willing to pay. If you are driving down the road, I love traveling by road, and I was very disappointed on Thursday. We drove down to Jaipur and by the expressway, and on that expressway I could not find a cup of tea that I like. You can't stop anywhere. So on the return I told my taxi driver, "भैया पुराने रास्ते से चलना, ढाबे पर रुक के चाय पिएंगे, expressway पे ढाबे नहीं." So if you have my kind of an approach, sir, what should a cup of tea and dhaba cost?
Maybe around 25 rupees.
25 rupees. Wonderful. My guess would have been 20, 25. Now supposing it costs 50 rupees, how will you feel? The moment you look at a dhaba, you look at the chairs, you look at the place, you have something in mind, itna hona chahiye. If you see a glass door, you are willing to pay 40 rupees. If you see a darban standing out a glass door, you add another 10, so 50 will. If you have Starbucks sign on the cup, you add 10, 500 So on this road to dhaba, I stopped for a cup of tea. वहाँ बोर्ड लगा हुआ था, चाय 10 रुपया, कॉफी 15 रुपया, ब्लैक टी 20 रुपया, ब्लैक कॉफी 25 रुपया. So I asked him, भैया तुम ब्लैक कॉफी और ब्लैक टी में क्या डालते हो? कि कुछ नहीं डालते, तो ऐसे दाम क्यों बढ़ा दिए? कि जी ब्लैक टी, ब्लैक कॉफी ब्लैक मनी वाले पीते हैं. And then I said, हमें normal चाय दे दो. And then he came running to me. भाऊ जी वो जो गाड़ी आ रही ना, वो भी रुकेंगे. उसमें से 2 बुड्ढे उतरेंगे. I didn't tell him मैं बुड्ढा हूँ. वो कहेंगे ब्लैक कॉफी विदाउट शुगर. और जी पूरे पैसे देके जाओगे, टिप भी देंगे. It happened. I waited. ऐसे तुझे कैसे पता चला? कहते हैं उनकी लंबी काली गाड़ी, आप तो सफेद गाड़ी में आए, काली गाड़ी वाले ज्यादा पैसे नहीं. What am I suggesting? From his experience, without going through the sessions of Harish Chaudhary, he has had this marketing, pricing, fixation. That black tea without sugar should cost significantly more. Incidentally, the most expensive drink in Starbucks at Seattle is chai. It's $6.5. Tea is 3.5. Because they figured out that the Indian housewife who's determined to boil the tea and heat it till the lips burn
is willing to pay anything for that tea after 3 days in US. You don't get good chai or coffee in US. Notwithstanding. So the marketing logic suggests that the price is to be set from the customer point of view, which implies you first need to define who's your customer. If your customer is an IT professional earning 60 lakhs per annum and has one wife who earns another 60 lakhs and one kid, then if you charge anything less than 50,000 per month, they will not be happy. They'll feel cheated. On the other hand, if you're talking to a government officer, a senior government officer who has an official car and seems to and has a lot of power and authority, but gets Government of India salary, they're looking at a school, a good school, which should be charging about 5,000 to 10,000. So when I was an assistant professor and I went to search for a school for my son, I had a scooter, child in front, wife at the back, no names, and I drove through Vasant Vihar at one school. We wanted to apply, and I drove past it. So my wife asked me, "Kya wo ruke kyun nahi?" I said, "Did you see the kind of cars that were parked there? उनके बीच में scooter कैसे खड़ा करता? रोज करूँगा, not my type of school. Thank you very much." So we searched for my type of school, which implies that you need to define who is your customer. Now that definition comes from two places. Either the location defines it, or if there's a mix. If you want to charge 50,000 rupees per month or above, you have to be in Gurgaon. Actually wrong, you can't be in Gurgaon. You have to be in DLF. You know, there are two parts of Gurgaon. One is called Gurgaon, another is called DLF. Anybody here from Bombay? Mumbai? So I had taken up a job in Bombay, and somebody asked me, one of the girls who was working there, "Where do you stay?" I said, "Bandra." "Bandra? Bandra is now where BKC is." So she said, "Where?" I said, "Kalanagar in Bandra." "Kalanagar? Acha, Bandra ki baat kar rahe ho?" That's when I realized that in Bombay, West is called Bandra, East is called Bandra. And Bandra people do not want to be mixed up with Bandra. I got married, came to Delhi. My wife is born and brought up in Bombay. And she asked the shopkeeper in IIT, "ये potatoes का rate क्या है?" So he said, "बहन जी, आलू का दाम कम है, potatoes का rate तो काफी ज़्यादा है." Who is the target audience? What does the target audience want? If you're charging 50,000 fee, one, your infrastructure has to be that type. The classroom has to be air conditioned. You cannot have wooden benches and chairs. And so on. The teachers have to come from that community. You have to give them a good salary, but at least another 30,000 rupees for sari dry cleaning per month. Otherwise they won't join it. They are not looking for jobs. So one very fancy school, which is one of the highest fee charging schools of India, I asked the owner principal. I was there for a couple of days. They wanted me to do some teacher training activity. So for breakfast we had pizzas, for lunch we had pasta. In the evening there was pav bhaji. They have a centrally heated swimming pool in the hill station and so on. So I asked him, it's a girls' school, I'm just giving you a cue. मैं नाम नहीं बताऊंगा कि सर इन बच्चों को अगर लाइफ में डिफिकल्टी फेस फेस करनी हुई तो कैसे फेस करेंगे? On the other hand, take the other extreme, the Vidya group of schools. Has anybody heard of Vidya group of schools? Rashmi Mishra, Rashmi ma'am? Maybe time permitting I'll share something with you. But their commitment is excellent school. It could be academic excellence, etc. etc. See, buyers, if I may call the parents the buyers and customers, they don't know the details. पूरी 4 साल बच्चों की कोचिंग IIT करवा के they have no idea what IIT is. And why should they? They don't know the curriculum, they don't know our processes, but there's that one word which is in their mind. That word we call positioning. In marketing language, we call that positioning. The brand exists in the mind of the customer. By implication, it is highly desirable that even before you think of a school, you think of what is that one word you will put in the mind of the customer. Academic. We'll put the child into IIT. So there's one school which has 1200 students in class 12, and the principal happily told me one day, हरीश जी, पिछले साल हमारे 671 बच्चे ना इंटरनेशनल यूनिवर्सिटीज में गए। तो ऐसे इसका मतलब दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी में दाखिला नहीं मिला किसी को। And then I gave him the names कि किन किन यूनिवर्सिटीज में गए होंगे, लंदन में 4। But they're happy with that. So that could be a positioning. We'll send your child to London for higher studies where he may or she may study or not study, but will get Londonized. That's the point. So whatever that positioning is, can you be clear in your mind that is what we do? So, sorry sir, time? Oh, I have some time. So there's a school which defines itself as preparing for IIT. And at a point of time, they were putting in about 40 to 80 students every year into the IIT system. 40 to 80 students. One of the students became captain of Indian cricket team. You know, you can guess the names, entirely up to you. And he wanted to start a cricket academy there. And the principal told him, स्कूल के अंदर नहीं घुसने दूंगा और शहर में भी खोलोगे तो बंद करवा दूंगा, क्योंकि यहाँ बच्चे पढ़ने आते हैं, क्रिकेट देखने नहीं। तुम क्रिकेट एकेडमी स्टार्ट करोगे, हमारे बच्चे क्लास में ना बंद कर देंगे। Very categorical. No sports, no games. We cater to this community and that's what we do. That's our position. On the other hand, I was at a school in Karnal, very sporty school. उनका अपना एक व्यू पॉइंट है, क्रिकेट इज नॉट अ गेम। व्हाई इज क्रिकेट नॉट अ गेम? कि जिसमें कोई टीम एफर्ट नहीं है। वी प्रिपेयर चिल्ड्रन फॉर टीम गेम्स एंड टीम एफर्ट एंड दे शुड फंक्शन इन टीम्स। क्रिकेटर्स आर आइसोलेटर्स। दैट्स हिज व्यू पॉइंट। देयर आर स्कूल्स व्हिच प्रिपेयर यू फॉर डिफेंस सर्विसेज। देयर आर स्कूल्स व्हिच प्रिपेयर यू फॉर बिजनेस। अनुरुद्ध जी चले, it's got a very fancy school in Ludhiana. Yes, young entrepreneur school. Focused on that. At the same time, if I look at the run-of-the-mill schools, there is still a place for them. There's a high demand for education. There are 4 schools, 1, 2, 3, 4 in this colony, in this. All of them are getting more applications and admissions, so let me also start a school that हमारा भी school बन जाएगा। You become a Me Too school. हम भी वही करते हैं जो करते हैं। You run the risk. You run the risk that if somebody comes up with a better offering, you will be down. Now these schools can survive and will continue to survive as long as there is more supply than demand. But then the capitalistic theory says that it always catches up. Because Surat mein ek baar somebody found that it's a good idea to have an international school. Start kar diya. I'm talking a decade back. Somebody is from Surat, right? I met somebody from Surat. There is one road which then became the international school road because within 3 years us par 12 khul gaye. And they didn't find teachers. And there's one particular school which has a 5-star hotel infrastructure, 8 horses and 4 teachers. Horse riding you can check my data. Why do you need teachers? Children want to do horse riding, teachers क्या करेंगे? Horses वैसे भी more disciplined होते हैं, बात मान लेते हैं. You can check this data. But on the more serious side, when you do decide this is what I want to be, one, it should be in reality with the market. Two, are you passionate about it? Ask yourself, is this what I really want to do? Is this what will give meaning to my life? Because you're going to spend a lifetime building that school. School is a deep brand. Education is a very deep brand. In this I can share the name. Doon School receives a lot of money from the alumni. And incidentally they do it very systematically. They have a 12-member alumni team in Delhi. The major purpose of which is to raise funds. In IIT Delhi also we have a large alumni office who bring in funds. Ali was just telling me, with my student, that they have just received a mail, all students, that the foyer there has been named Vinny Bansal Foyer because it's become the biggest donor to IIT Delhi, competing with Mittal Sports Complex. So we are now doing these kind of things. Soon you might find some name in this hall also. I was asking the chairman of Vellum Boys, why does Vellums not get the kind of alumni supported funding that Doon does? And he gave me a very beautiful right answer. He said, give it another 5-10 years. It takes about 20 years, 20-25 years, according to him, for a student to pass out from the school and then come back and start contributing. You know, in between they have to make their own career. So, once you do define the position, once you do define this is what I want to be known as, look at the market. Is there a market for it? Will this location support it? What should my teaching system be? What should my teacher's profile be? And what will be my long-term strategy? Now, one error which I know a number of schools have made, a large number. Land area, building बना दी, और admissions बढ़ाने के लिए जो मिला उसका admission कर लिया, fees कम रख ली. Now, if you know what happens is you get branded for that. There's a beautiful school here in Saket which is suffering from this. There's a beautiful school in DLF which is suffering from this. There's a beautiful school in East Delhi I know is suffering from this. That in their initial stage, they kept the fee low, और अब तो fee determination committees जो बन रही हैं, they are saying you can increase only by 10%. I have one request. If you want to keep the fees at 5,000 rupees, please start with the fee of 10,000 and give 50% scholarship. क्योंकि 10,000 by 10% is 1,000 rupees of an increase, 5,500 rupees of an increase. 50,000 per year increase by 5,000 every year, and so on. Don't keep the fees low, but give scholarships. Two, depending on the position you have, select those kind of students, even if it means that initially you get less number of students. select those kind of teachers, even if it means that it's going to be a slow process. Go slow, it's okay. Even RAM group, which is now 135 schools, 3 lakh students approximately. From the first school to the second school, they took 15 years. And when they became a brand, when I look around at how schools have come up, the first set of students, the first set of children who will come to you will come either because they know your family and have regards for it, or the looks of the building, the infrastructure. Interiors don't matter, exteriors matter more. बाहर का पेंट, बाहर का कलर, बाहर का मार्बल, बाहर का फाउंटेन, your gatekeeper, etc. Your reception matters more than the insides of the classroom at the initial stage. There's an excellent school in Ganganagar. It has 4,000 students, overflowing to capacity. And I'm saying that because I'm pretty sure the owners will not mind my quoting it. And a fairly high fee for the town. And we talked, and we were at Goa together for a workshop with the owner, manager, secretary. And we couldn't figure out how it has become so branded and so good and so well known. And then he told me a little story. Started from a 2-room setup, kind of a garage shop, play school. And there was the chief medical officer's kid, nursery class, who refused to go back home after the school hours. She said, "Auntie ke saath rahungi." And that story got round. The rest followed. There's another very good school, excellent school. And we were trying to figure out what makes it so popular. I can again give you some clues. It's in Ranchi. And I had been there a couple of times. I spent some time there. We were doing a workshop in Ranchi. And we finished at 5 o'clock. We had to catch a train to Calcutta at about 9. So I told one of my students, Priyank is now a director of entrepreneurship at Ashoka University. I said, Priyank, तुम समझना चाहते तो वो स्कूल देख करो. And he met us at the railway station. And he was beaming. He said, Sir, समझ आ गया. I said, क्या समझ आया? Sir, समझ आ गया स्कूल इतना पॉपुलर क्यों है. I said, कैसे समझ आया? He said, Sir, हम वहाँ 6 बजे पहुँचे. There were 2 of them. Priyank told me the story. It was getting a little dark. And on the staircase was a teacher sitting with a 4-year-old kid teaching him English. And she said, Beta bolo, this is a car. The child said, this is a car. She said, this is a car. He said, this is a car. He said it 14 times. And the 14th time the child said, this is a car. She opened her bag and gave him a toy. And the kid went running away. जिस स्कूल की टीचर शाम को 6 बजे स्टेयरकेस पर बैठकर एक बच्चे को इतने प्यार से पढ़ा रही है, that school has to do well. What am I suggesting? Is that a part of your brand? So you have to design these processes, each of these things. The moments of truth. What is the first interaction that a potential customer, if I say a parent who wants to put his child into a school, उनका पहला इंटरेक्शन आपसे क्या होता है? Very first interaction. First interaction.
How is the school?
कैसे पता चलता है?
Marketing?
कैसे? पेरेंट को कैसे पता चला?
Experience? School, past year experience of the alumni.
Any other comments, sir?
They want to know about the faculty, sir, that from where are you going to hire the faculty? What is your process for hiring?
So मेरे स्टूडेंट से बातें इंटरव्यू में पूछता हूँ कि क्या क्यों अप्लाई किया हमारे डिपार्टमेंट में. सर फैकल्टी इज वेरी गुड, ऐसे दो के नाम बताओ कि जो वो नहीं पता। नहीं मैम, ये कहने की बात है, द फर्स्ट इंटरेक्शन विद योर वेबसाइट।
Sir, but I would say not to the ones who were the first.
Right. So their first interaction.
Come and ask about the faculty only. From where are you going to hire the teachers?
Maybe you're right, absolutely taken. Their first interaction किससे पूछेंगे? किससे पूछेंगे? They ask the चौकीदार। Sure, absolutely, word of mouth. Is it happening by default or are we managing that process? It's happening by default. I'm suggesting we need to take control and charge of this. And again, entirely dependent on the community you are catering to, the place you are based at. I find, I come from a town called Muzaffarnagar. It's a population of 3.2 lakhs. It's a small town. हिंदी नहीं आती, अंग्रेजी नहीं आती, मगर X, Facebook, Instagram और WhatsApp, and there was this kid who was scrolling the smartphone, could not read a word of English or Hindi. तो I said क्या कर रहे हो? गानों की एल्बम बना रहा हूँ। I said कैसे बना रहे हो? सुन के। So please check कि आपके जो कम्युनिटी है उनका इंफॉर्मेशन बेस क्या है, कहाँ से उनको पता चलता है, और उसको आप कैसे इम्पिंज कर सकते हैं। क्वेश्चन 2, व्हाट इज द डिसीजन क्राइटेरिया? हाउ डू यू बिल्ड इट इनटू योर सिस्टम? 3, first set come from infrastructure or knowledge of the family. The second set will come to you from the experience of the parents. So I went to a very fancy school, one of the fanciest day school that I have seen so far. And they had a very fancy foundation day. Drones ऊपर उड़ रहे थे फोटो लेते हुए, just to tell you what kind of school this is. Good friends, मुझे फ्रंट रो बैठा दिया, मेरे बराबर में डीएम, उसके बराबर में एसपी, उसके बराबर में सुपरिटेंडिंग इंजीनियर, उसके बराबर में जूनियर इंजीनियर, भारत सरकार सारा उस शहर का वहाँ था। प्रोग्राम्स चल रहे थे, and every 5 minutes somebody would come with dry fruits, cake, biscuits, Coca-Cola, etc., etc., etc. And guess what? At the end of the school ground, they put up a kiosk where tea, coffee was available to parents on payment of 10 rupees in a paper cup. And I told him, "Here, we are not your customers, please. We are your customers. What are they going to say when they go over here? What is our interaction with the parents?" I know parents are a very difficult community. I know parents are very angry and upset. I know parents can be very, very difficult. But schools are the only system who charge the full fee in advance and then tell the parents get out. Don't come without appointment. जरा होटल में करके दिखाना. Any other service. How do we engage the parents? I have a request. ये जो सर पीटीएम होती है ना, इसको बंद कर दो प्लीज शट इट। Is there a way to connect? So I was at a school in UK and I asked the principal, how often do you meet the parents? I meet every parent twice a year for 45 minutes. Fortunately, it was a very large school in UK, it had 340 students. They call it large. We are a big school. I have 340 children in my school. She meets 340 parents twice a year by appointment. देखो system थोड़ा culture अलग है, but I have a request. As a school leader, school owner, school principal, you cannot meet every parent. But can you make every parent's interaction a positive interaction? Can you make them feel good? It doesn't have to be your time. Maybe it's select parents. The third set will come to you based on the child's experience. What do these kids, when they grow up, when they reach class 6, 7, 8, what do they say about the school? So we just had a workshop I attended. I like to attend full workshops, so I spent an hour in a workshop upstairs with Professor Padmanabhan. And he was talking about what is a good school. I was in Finland and I asked these two principals, what is a good school? I keep asking this question. And they had very simple answer, immediate prompt, a happy place. Full stop. A happy place. Is your school a happy place? I'm not even suggesting it should be. A Sonic school need not be a happy place. वहां किसको भेज रहे हैं? वहां उस बच्चों को भेज रहे हैं जो माँ बाप की बात नहीं सुनता। वैसे तो फैक्ट है, इसको कोई बच्चे माँ बाप की बात नहीं सुनते, पर जो कहता है कि मैं आपकी बात नहीं सुनता, तो उसको ठीक करने के लिए सैनिक स्कूल भेज देते हैं। वो ठीक करके आपको वापस कर देते हैं 4-5 साल में। Can be, but in general. And see, let's have some fundamentals. Every parent wants his child to succeed. And every child can succeed. So, do you design these interactions the fourth set of students will come to you based on results, outcomes. Unfortunately, fortunately, even your class 10 results, class 12 results, university admissions are not a guarantee of success. The fifth set will come to you from alumni performance. Now, of course, if you talk of legacy schools, Doon School, 90 years old, if you look at their website and look at the alumni page, it's a very long list. It's a very long list. Prime Minister, Chief Ministers, Justices, bureaucrats, Secretary to the government, literatures, musicians, obviously. 90 साल हो गए यार, बहुत कुछ निकल आता है. But there used to be a school, a very good school, 25-30 years back, doing extremely well, which has virtually shut down. And I was trying to figure out what went wrong. So I met the owners and I asked them, where is the alumni? पता नहीं. हमने बहुत दिन से alumni meet नहीं की. And that school has produced a prime minister of this country. They didn't know. If the owners, the founders, do not know that one of the students was the prime minister of the country, they have to die. So what I'm suggesting, but these processes will take time. These 5 stages will take 25 years. Give 5 years to each. Now, as sir said, coming back to your comment, sir, most of us, when we want a cold drink, will buy a Coke, or will buy a Pepsi, will buy a Thumbs Up. We are willing to pay, कितना होता है Coke का price? मैं तो नहीं करूँ. 25 rupees for a bottle. Now, if you get an exactly same product, which has no label on it, same taste, at half the price, you probably will not buy it. We buy packaged food because it has a brand. What does the brand say? That the next time I buy it, it will taste the same. But if you buy an unbranded product, the next time you buy it, it may not be the same. Even if it's very good. पता चला अगली बार खराब निकल गया. A brand is consistency. It is assurance of consistency. Consistency in quality. Now, what is quality? Let's understand quality also. Sir, which is a better car, Mercedes or Maruti Alto? Those of you who are not able to hear him, he says Mercedes is a better car than Maruti Alto. No. Mercedes is a good car at that price and Maruti Alto is a good car at this price. Mercedes is a good car for those people. देखिए, अंकित मुझे नहीं पता कि अभी तुम्हारे पास कौन सी गाड़ी है. You can probably afford a Mercedes. मुझे तुम अगर गिफ्ट भी दोगे ना Mercedes में चलाऊंगा नहीं उसको, क्योंकि अगर उस पर स्क्रैच पड़ गया तो कार्डियक मैटर हो जाता है. मारुति ऑल्टो में कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं यार, ठुक गई मैकेनिक को कहेंगे इसको 2,000 का पेंट कर देना, कहीं भी मिल जाएगा. मर्सिडीज में अगर आपका डेंट पड़ गया तो आपका उस महीने का डेंटिंग हो गया. क्वालिटी एट अ प्राइस, क्वालिटी फॉर द कस्टमर. So there are three definitions of quality in literature. One is by Joran, which says fitness for use. So Mercedes का अपना एक पर्पस है और मारुति ऑल्टो का अपना पर्पस है. They are both fit for their use. If you use them for different purposes, अब आप मारुति ऑल्टो लेकर ताज होटल में चले गए तो वो दरवाजा नहीं खोलेगा आपका, पहले भी चाबी नहीं मांगेगा. कैसे आदमी आ गए, कोई टिप नहीं देंगे, तो उसका पर्पस है. One of my colleague was searching for a car and his wife said, I want a good car. Good old days, जब हमारी सैलरीज कम होती थी, फिर पे कमीशन नहीं बढ़ गई, तो मैंने कहा मैम व्हाट इज अ गुड कार? शी सेड गुड कार वो है जब कहीं शादी में गए और निकल रहे हो तो चाबी से स्टार्ट होकर 2-3 किलोमीटर तक रोकने नहीं चाहिए. That's our definition of quality. The second definition was given by Phil Crosby, who said conformance to standards. What are the standards you claim it to be? So one of my school principals in a speech on the Founders Day said, we do not claim to be an academic school. It was categorical. We do not say that our children will be toppers. But I assure you they'll all get first division in the exam and they'll do extremely well in life. Good. That's conformance to standards. That's their conformance. On the other hand, you'll be meeting some of you will probably meet, I'm hoping will come, Sandeep Srivastav, a very dear student of mine who was part of our initial first conferences. He's busy today. He defined good school as guarantee of overall development. Somebody might define happiness quotient. Somebody might say English से करेंगे, IIT में चलो भेज देंगे, whatever. Conformance to what you claim. And then came in Peter Drucker, marketing definition. He said quality is meeting customer expectations. You need to match the expectations. I was in a school in Guwahati with the school principal and one of these parents who came with a little kid, nursery admission. आप गारंटी दोगे इसको डॉक्टर बना दोगे? He said हम तो नहीं गारंटी दे सकते. अभी तो हम पता नहीं क्या है. नहीं आप गारंटी तो अभी एडमिशन कराते हैं, पूरी फीस पे करेंगे. Thank you. What you can do, what you can't do. Let's be categorical about it. So branding. I'm not getting the theoretical structures of brand. Brand is an image. It's a perception. See, anything that you purchase, you have a prior conception and a perception of that. कैसी होगी? Of course, with due respect to Sir there are innovators who keep trying new things, experiment karo. The most innovative community in the world, sir, is the Sikh community of Punjab. जब कोई नहीं जानता था कि आप पार्टी कौन सी है, उन्होंने कहा चलो इसको जिता के देखते हैं, नई पार्टी देखते हैं क्या होता है. Let us see. Every time I go to Ludhiana or Jalandhar, they take me to सब और नया ढाबा खुला है वहाँ चले गए, कैसा देख के आते हैं. सर ये नई बॉटल आई है, इसे ट्राई करते हैं. They'll get, but even they would not necessarily or not easily want to try the future of their child. They want an assurance. So, consistency of performance is very important. There are brands which are you won't touch because they're very consistent. Build quality into your product. Hoardings. You need to know whether parents are on social media, whether they're coming from hoardings, whether they're coming from activities around. Now, fortunately, unfortunately, most of the marketing that we do for our schools is inside the school for the parents who are already here in the fond hope कि बाहर जाकर ये हमारी तारीफ करेंगे. One, does it happen? Do we know it? What's our measure? Two, the community you need to address are those who are not in your school yet. And therefore you talk to them outside the school system. Is it difficult? Yes, of course it is difficult. So one school which we are trying to build a brand and which we believe we successfully did. It has 70 or 80 odd teachers and 30 staff. So I asked the owner, founder, he's a very dear friend of mine. I said, we must find out कि जो पेरेंट्स दूसरे स्कूल्स में जा रहे हैं तुम्हारे यहाँ नहीं आ रहे क्यों नहीं आ रहे. We need to know that. And how do we know it? One is to do a research and a survey, etc., etc. So we did a simple thing. We made a questionnaire and we asked every teacher and staff कि अपनी लोकेलिटी में 10 फैमिलीज को चाय के लिए बुलाओ, चाय बिस्कुट समोसा, और उनसे ये क्वेश्चन भरवा के मिलो. We got 1000 data. And these parents should be those whose child is not studying in your school. भैया 10 फैमिलीज को जानते होगे ना, नहीं तो जाके पूछ लो. आप एक मल्टी स्टोरी बिल्डिंग में रह रहे हो, उन्हीं को बुला लो. And we said we'll pay the bill. Didn't cost us much. We got very rich. Another school, वो यहाँ नहीं है अभी शायद. Divine group. Anybody from Divine here? No. There's a large group of participants here from that school. It's a school I love. It's a beautiful school in Ahmedabad. Because you want to know what is the profile of the parent, of the child and the parents of your school. We'll do home visits. 1339 students, 1339 home visits by the teachers. The first time we said, you will go by a taxi which is hired by the school. You will let us know where you are going, when you are going, when you are coming back, we will keep track, and we will reimburse your expenses. Within a week they said कि सर ना टैक्सी की जरूरत है ना एक्सपेंस की जरूरत है. हम जहाँ आते हैं हमें पेरेंट्स जो स्वागत कर रहे हैं, they're giving us tea, coffee, ढोकला, खाखरा, फाफड़ा, etc. And they drop us to the next house and they drop us back. We got very rich data. Work on data. Work on data. Create a baseline. This is what we are. This is where we want to go, and therefore this is the approach. If you don't do it, the brand will structure itself and you won't know it. Brand तो बनेगा. If your product is not good, the more noise you make about it, the more the bad brand establishes. तो दिल्ली में एक बड़ी जोरदार ब्रांड है, सदैव आपके साथ आपकी सहायता के लिए तत्पर. Nobody believes it. I got a call from Hoskhas police station one day at 9:30 in the evening. जी तेरा नाम हरीश चौधरी है ना? है तो भाई थाने आ जाओ. क्यों आ जाओ? कि जी एक बैग मिला, उसमें आपका कार्ड था. One of my students' car got somebody broke the glass window. Her bag was taken away. They found it. They found my card in it. I called up my security officer, Captain Yadav, he'll be here with us tomorrow. I said, sir, ये हादसा हो गया, बताइए क्या करें? आप मेरे साथ 2 गार्ड भेजो. One of my classmates is just retired as Director General Police West Bengal, IPS officer. सर मेरे घर आ गए एक दिन यूनिफॉर्म में. I told him, don't you ever do it again. मेरी मोहल्ले में इज्जत है थोड़ी सी. अगली बार आओ, ऑफिस से नहीं घर जाके कपड़ा बदल के आओ. यूनिफॉर्म में मेरे घर आना अलाउड नहीं। एक इमेजरी होती है। क्या सोचेंगे लोग, रात को 10 बजे 9:30 बजे पुलिस वाला यूनिफॉर्म में घर चला रहा है, किस किस को बताओगे मेरा दोस्त है, क्लासमेट है। कुछ लोग मानेंगे, कुछ नहीं मानेंगे। School, I repeat, is a very deep brand. That brand stays with the child for life, sometimes even after life. If you are a Christian, तो आपके टूम पे लिख भी देते हैं स्कूल का नाम, कॉलेज का नाम, कार्ड पर लिखते हैं. It's that community you are with. So you have to be very, very, very careful with it. But then, once you are clear that I am providing quality education at the fee point, I am not suggesting कि अगर आप 2000 रुपए फीस ले रहे तो accreditation क्लासरूम दीजिए. No. I am not suggesting your buses should be AC. I am not suggesting your teacher should be fancy. No, I am not suggesting that. At another fee point, yes, that's important. Then make a lot of noise. Go into social media. So you must have all heard about that famous case of Maggie, when Maggie got banned. 6:46? Okay, I'll stop here. Just give me a few minutes. Himanshu has given me the ultimatum. And there are things which cannot wait. They're extremely important. Brands live on word of mouth. Word of mouth from the parents, from the teachers. Ma'am, I don't know, but you'll have to find out in your school. Do the potential applicants to your school contact the teachers? अगर उनके मोहल्ले में है तो उससे बात करेंगे, उसको देखेंगे, और ये भी होगा, अच्छा इसको टीचर रखा हो, इसको तो कुछ नहीं आता. Your school is gone. Himanshu, I'll still take 5 minutes. My first job was with a company called Dunlop. We were making tires in the factory, and we were living in the Dunlop colony, which was much like the IIT campus. It was a British company. This is also a British institute. Was set up by the British infrastructure, so it was very similar. And to reach the factory from outside, you have to drive through the colony. We used to have a production meeting every day at 11 o'clock as a management training. And one fine day, production manager was not there. आधा घंटा बैठे रहे, 11:30 बज गए, जब 11:15 बजे पता चला कि कल रात को सैक हो गए, dismissed. क्या हुआ? The managing director was driving through the colony and he saw a car parked in front of his house which had JK tires on it. No questions asked, packed. वो बाद में कहते रहे कि सर अभी खरीदी थी, सेकंड हैंड टायर बदलने जा रहे थे. He said, if you are in Dunlop, how can you have a JK tire in your car? If you are a teacher in my school, how can your child not be in my school? If you don't trust my school, why are you here? Thank you. Does every teacher say with pride, I work for the school? This is my school. Does every teacher stand up and commit to the child, हमारे school भेज दो? I guarantee the success of this child. And believe me, every teacher can do that. But do we know it? So I have one more request. Look after your teachers. They should be happy, they should be satisfied, they should have a strong image. हमने तो स्कूल इसलिए ज्वाइन किया, घर के पास है, थोड़े दिन में छोड़ देंगे. Please forget it. And do an employee satisfaction survey, baseline survey. खुद बुलाकर नहीं पूछना, ताकि उनसे 9% मत तो लिखेंगे best school, excellent, no problems. I've done it in some schools. Get an independent agency to it. Don't waste money on it. Don't get McKinsey and Anderson to do it. वो General Motors का questionnaire लेकर उसको modify करके आपको दे देंगे, that doesn't work. It has to be customized. Staff room. And I know Himanshu is getting a little panicky, but I must tell you one more little story. My wife was working in a school where she worked for about 25-30 years. To be more precise, I think 30 odd years. And she used to take a flask of tea in the morning from home. And one day they were having a meeting, after she'd been there for 15 years, they were having a meeting in the principal's office. And one of the teachers commented, "Ma'am, आपके कमरे में चाय बड़ी अच्छी आती है, क्रॉकरी भी अच्छी है." And she said, "क्यों तुम्हारे स्टाफ रूम में है?" तो जैसे नहीं, सारे कप टूटे हुए, बड़ी गंदी चाय आती है. The principal owner manager changed it overnight. As a matter of fact, she called my wife and said, "Sangeeta, I want the staff room to be done up. I want good quality tea to be served. Tell me what you need." उन्होंने बाकी टीचर्स को बता दिया, उन्होंने विश लिस्ट लिखवा दी, 1 रेफ्रिजरेटर, 1 माइक्रोवेव, 1 this, so many cups, mugs, crockery, 60-70 हजार का बिल बना दिया. इन द फॉर्म होप कि मैम के पास भेजेंगे तो कुछ तो पैसे मिल ही जाएंगे. It took exactly 1 minute for her to sanction this amount. Do it. For 15 years, she did not know what was the tea in the staff room. Please visit the staff rooms. Please make them nice and pleasant. Please look after the teachers. Ensure that they speak with pride about your school. And finally, your alumni. So there's a research paper, what makes Harvard #1? And one clear finding is, because the board of management of Harvard has alumni on its board. See, they have the highest stake. Engage alumni. So I'm going to stop here. Thank you all very much. I'm sorry, no time for questions. So, I have some informal discussions later in the evening. And or please send your questions to Himanshu by mail or WhatsApp. He'll pass it on to me. We'll respond to it.
I also want to speak on this area. I'll only take 5 minutes. But this is one area on which I am thinking and working for last 2-3 months. So I have a theory. I have developed this theory. More so because I also have 2 children now. One of which is in class 4. So I have attended PTMs. I have seen how it goes. I have a school owner in Dehradun who is now putting a lot of money in upgrading the infrastructure with a fond belief that in last 25 years we have graduated these many students and their parents will send us back, send their kids back. Now they have become parents. Ankush Mishra was to come today, he did not come. He is very certain that his parents will not send their kids to this school because they have risen up in the social and financial strata. So they would go to the next level. And he has another version of it that middle class families spends around 7 to 9% of their income in the education. So accordingly, they select a school. Now, amongst all this, one is actually putting all their trust and hopes on the alumni, while other is very sure that they will not come. So I need to create another strata for them, and new parents will join in. I also have been to, so these are 2 things which are contradicting. You can think about it, what is your view about it? We can always discuss it. And sir also said that you are working with your parents, but you have to work with parents outside as well. I would go with the first belief that what can I do with my existing parents so that they can become my brand ambassador. My first answer comes from my own experience of parent-teacher meetings. I go there, I get a slot of half an hour or 45 minutes where 10-15 parents have to come. And I'm hoping that I can jump the line and get my chance quickly because there's so much uncertainty, anyone can sit anywhere. And when I reach the teacher, all teacher has to say is under this format, that I am happy with your child, I am not happy with your child, and this is the things which you have to do with your child. So nowhere it is, the template is that we found this about your child and this is what we are planning to do with your child. The template is this is what we found about your child and now you are going to do something about it. The class teacher doesn't know how he performs in maths or some other. So I think the template is same across. The teachers actually do not know what your child is. So they will fill it up with the regular behavioral statements which you can say to a parent, and because you know something about he doesn't eat properly, her handwriting is bad, or make too much noises, there are so many complaints, but they are all very compounded statements. You are not getting into the nitty-gritties because you do not know what are the nitty-gritties. Bad handwriting can further be broken down into 5 or 6 different components. The way a character is written, the way a word is written, the way the spacing between 2 words are. If you will give that kind of a insight, they will go back and work upon it. And when they will have tea with their friends, they would be able to say, my school knows this much about my child. So I think if we can go in that direction, our parents can become a brand ambassador, because sooner or later some of them will go. And then they will realize that that school, they are giving all generic statements about my child. While this school used to know about my child. The home visits. Does the teacher even know what kind of device they have? They have a device or not, whether the parent has taken a mobile and all that. So the more you know about your child, the better your brand will be. That's my theory which I am working upon. I am working with some schools. I will be working with you on this. So this is one of the theories which I have, to make a brand from inside out, just by knowing your child better and better. It starts with training your teacher on how to identify what that child is missing, give something which is bite size, and implementable by parent. Don't give them compounded statements. Iska interest nahi hai. This is the most confusing statement. Interest kya hota hai? How would a parent do anything about it? And the word keeps on going. So this is the theory I am working upon. Just wanted to add the branding part. So thank you. Now please put your. There are only 3 lucky draw coupons right now, so all of them will work. If other people have not put there. And now I invite you to the dinner where we will discuss it threadbare, with some of the faculty members also joining. So I'll see you at Hostas, Porting Harisha, where we will have a spirited discussion. What's that? Yes, we are putting that in the community. The location of the venue. Panchit Club is Hostas. You are asking?